Kumlan and Ablat Gemara. We're up to today Daf Kuf Tez Vav Amad Aleph, and a good finish to everybody. So we're talking about that we need facts. In a court, you need facts. Probability is not going to do it. So at the time of war, and if a woman says that her husband died in war, we think that could be just a case of probability or called bidadami. Doesn't necessarily mean it actually happened. So so she's then not believed. If she says at a time of war he died in bed, natural causes, then she would be believed. So now the one has a question in the middle of the page, right in the middle of the page. The first word of the line is Orak. We have the following question: Eid echad b'milchama. What happens at a time of war? We're not relying on her testimony. We're relying on a single witness. Mahu comes forward and says that this person died during the war. What happens then? And Bing Machlek is Rashi and Tesis. What exactly are we saying? I will come back to in a minute. Now the question is, when we said before that a single witness is believed, is time of date echad mehemen? Generally, you need two witnesses when it comes to divorce, marriage, wife. When it comes to the thing the husband died, we're lenient, and because of iguna. On what basis? Is it because a single aid, which in the milsa vidagluyu, he knows that he can be caught out easily. The husband suddenly one day returns. Therefore, that in itself is enough to like a checks and balances to prove that he's telling the truth. And in fact, some people say it's not even called testimony, where something which is evidence will become evident on its own. It's not even considered evidence. We're just relying on, he's just telling us the facts. What is the reason, as we mentioned before, time of the 8 echad, you know why a single witness is believed? Because she is going to do further homework. She'll do due diligence. So she'll be very careful because she knows the consequences. If she gets married based on this testimony and her husband comes back, it'll be a disaster. So she'll do extra homework, and we're relying on that. So it's her together with the 8. Here, keeping the zimi and sanula, sometimes you might hate the husband. So she thinks she can rely on the witness of time of war. People die at time of war, and therefore she's going to be a bit relaxed on her thoroughness, and therefore in this case we shouldn't believe. Now, according to Rashi, we're also worried that the Eid Echad himself is only giving us a case of the dummy. No, but the Eid Echad also imagined that he saw the person get shot. For sure, he died in the middle of the war. Tesis says definitely not. Tesis says that an Eid Echad, there's no dummy here. A Eid Echad, when he comes to court to say the testimony, they're telling us conclusive evidence. He saw the guy die. But an Eid Echad is not believed. The reason why we believe it is because the Eid Echad together with a woman. But over here, because the woman might be, her thoroughness might not be that thorough. So therefore, maybe we're not going to rely on this case. So the question is, an Eid Echad at a time of war together with women, is that grounds to let her release her or not? Or do we say, because of the time of war, she's not there either? If it's the Eid Echad because it's a milsa vidagluyi, everybody will find out. Then, even though it's time of war, he's telling the truth. But if and therefore we only relying on the Eid Echad, that's good enough. But if it's because we need her and him together, her homework, in this case, her homework will be a bit relaxed because she thinks the husband's definitely dead. So Tashma coming in. Tashma coming in. When I once went to Nerdoi La Aber Hashon, I went to be Ma'ab of the year, and the Gemara already says in Brachas, why is it? And that he was able to go because he didn't leave anybody equal in stature to him. You're only supposed to do Net Yisrael. But if you have nobody equal to you in Net Yisrael, you could do it in a Chutz La'aretz. You find the Nevi'im, as Tosha brings you Yirmiyah and Yecheskel, they were Ma'ab of the Shana in Net Yisrael, and they were able to do that. What do you call it? And then why not Net Yisrael? Because maybe they had to leave Israel something, maybe some Xeris that they couldn't. One of the first Xeris that the Goyim always did was to put in place, don't touch the calendar. So they went there. And sometimes we find that they went to Babel, but they were merely making calculations, not actually fixing that year to be a leap year. Anyway, the Kiva said, while I wasn't a doy to Ba'abed year, but Tosin the Chemi Ish Bezli, I found the person called the Chemi Ish Bezli, came over to me, but he said, Shemaik, I heard, She'ema Sin Zisha Beit Yisrael, Al Pi Eid Echad. They don't rely on a single witness in Israel to marry off a woman. Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba. The only one is Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba who says that's enough. Eid Echad is enough to set this woman free so she can get remarried. She shouldn't be a guna. But and I said to him, Rabbi Kiva says, "Can't bottom. You're right. That's exactly true." Amali, he said to me, "Amar tell them Mishmi, my name. Atem Yodim HaMedina Hazum Shebeshet Begayosas." Now this is how we understood in the beginning. You know that this nation. You know that this nation, Israel, is full. Full of armies, marauding armies everywhere. So therefore, there's a lot of danger there, and there's war going on. That even during, so the way we understood is that even during wars, we will rely on a single witness. Then we resolve your question. My Medina Mishabesh, the Gemara says now, so the Gemara is trying to understand. So what do you mean that there's full of armies? Even though Israel is full of armies, the rule is Israel, but when the countries that the armies still you marry a Echad. If he's trying to give a general rule, there's war, then why say Medina Zu? Just say generally. When there's a war, we believe in it, even a war, we believe in it. Should say anywhere there's a war, even then we believe the single witness. Says Rabbi, I'll tell you, Pshat, nothing to do with what you're saying. He's saying to them, I personally cannot travel to Israel because it's dangerous, but you're going back to Israel, so you do me a favor, you relay it to them in my name. But that at a time of peace, a single aid is believed. Because at that time they still were working that law out. But during war, he didn't even talk about it. This nation here, this country here, bubble against full of armies. I cannot leave my family behind. And present myself before the rabbis in Israel. Therefore, I want you to know that I learned from Gamliel that you can marry with a woman based on a single witness. A single witness. And therefore, nothing to do with your question about an Eid Echad at a time of war. So Tashma coming here, another proof. There were two rabbis traveling together with Abba Yosi, the son of Samai, on a ship. The Tova and the entire ship capsized. The Haysi, Rebbe, Nishasein, and Rebbe went ahead and married off their wives, Al Pinoshi, based on the testimony of women who saw them embark on this trip. And then what? They saw the ship drown. So right now we're understanding that all they saw the ship capsize. And based on that, they said that they're no longer agunas. These other women are not agunas. Then the chayil of a mayim, water is water is just like a mechama. What do you mean like a mechama? Because the whole idea of a mechama is that people, take cases of probability and turn it into facts. Same thing here. When you see a boat capsize in the middle of the ocean, the first story came in, that's it. They're all finished. They'll never survive. There are no survivors. Okay, so it's like a macham. Number one. Number two, the nashim that the nashim even 100 is like one aid. We had this a few weeks ago. So halachically, legally, it's like one aid where you need aids. So you have here an aid echad and machama. Uktani and Rebbe clearly Hasi married off their wives and says they're no longer agunas. No clear that what an aid echad machama is not just imagining thing, but it's a fact. Says that's a question. That's how you understand it. We have a rule which is one of the most difficult rules to understand in Pashtus. Mayim she'ein lehem seifninu. When you see a ship capsize, and if you can see one end of the river to the lake to the other end of the lake, and you see a ship capsize, you don't see anybody coming up, then you know you can go and testify they all passed away. There are no survivors. But if you're out in the ocean and you cannot see beyond a certain point, then how do you know for certain that somebody wasn't saved? They were able to, grab a hold of a floaty or something, or a board and rescue somebody further out. You cannot state for a fact. You can say in all likelihood, in all probability, but that's not fact. So how can the story? How do you explain the story? How are they permitted in the first place? I'll tell you a beautiful word of Lushirim when we get into the sugya of Mayim Shein Lehem Sof. So it says the Gemara. What actually happened in the Omri, these women not only said they saw them embark on the ship, they said, Askinu Kaman. They found the bodies later on. The Chazinu La'alta, and we saw it straight away. We had to see it straight away because if the bodies were lying on the land for a while, the bodies are bloated and the figures are deformed, and we don't take the testimony anymore. We'll see later what parts of the body have to be stable so that you can give testimony, recognition. So they said that in the water itself, if they were there for a while, it doesn't matter. Taisa says that Taisa brings down here. He disagrees with Rashi that in the water actually just keeps the body intact, shrivels. Only when it goes out of the water, the body becomes bloated and it becomes disfigured. So these women testify that they actually saw the bodies, not that they're assuming, they saw it. Ukaamri simanim, the lava lies of simanim, and they said the telltale signs of what these rabbis looked like or what they were wearing. And we saw the simanim, and therefore we knew, or on the body, we knew they had a mark here, they had a cut here, and a abrasion here. And then we checked out the simanim, and it turned out to be correct. We don't. Taisa talks about it here whether if they come along and say no simanim, we just recognize the person. Was that good enough? Because here we're saying over here. maybe it's not good enough. It sounds like if they would have said we recognize them, no, it's the simonim that helps us recognize them. How can that be? I mean, that's a very odd thing. That's what seems to be more here. They're saying that simonim. So Taisa said, must be talking about a case that they couldn't recognize them. Maybe the fish have I guess, bitten into the person's face and completely disfigured the person. So the only way they can tell is through simonim, has a cut in the finger, is missing a finger, or whatever, different simonim that they can tell. That's why. But otherwise, they says clearly, Tviyas ayin, saying I recognize the person, that's the best kind of simon. You don't need any other simonim. Says the Gemara further. Who got the person? So we're saying that we saw the simonim, and the simonim is good enough. So we'll ask a question of that. Now, by the way, we'll learn about Metzia, the whole question of simonim the raisa, simonim lav the raisa, and even if simonim is from the Torah or simonim not from the Torah, but even if simonim not from the Torah, if it's simonim of hakim, if it's very strong simonim, that's different. That's my Torah. And here we're talking about then simonim move hakim. If you hold simonim the raisa, then even talk about simonim lav move hakim. You know how compelling does it have to be? Like 1 in a million, or it could be 1 in 1,000. You know, simonim of hakim is something that, missing a finger is a very rare thing. So that's simonim of hakim. A cut is not a simple movie because a lot of people have cuts. So anyway, how was the person he stored sesame seeds by his friend Amala, and then later on the mafkid came over and he said, I stored by you this barrel of sesame seeds. I need it back. Amalei and the I deposited by you. Amalei, so the nifkid said, the one who was mining it said, she continue, you took it already. So the market said, what are you talking about? This is the barrel, this is how many, this is the weight of whatever it is, how many sesame seeds were, gives them a number. On Malay, so the guy said, 1 second. The only sign you have is number. You definitely took your thing back. This is something else. Now the question, what do you do? This is another thing, just by chance, it happens to have the same number. By chance, the same number. Says the Gemara. So now we're talking about here number. The Gemara is going to make light of it. Even though Nela Matzis will say that one of the ways of knowing is Mida, Mishkul, Minyan. One of them is the number. Over there, talking about in a case where it's very rare to have that number. Here, we're talking about a barrel that normally fits, I guess, a standard size barrel, normally fits a standard size amount of sesame seeds. So the number was not such a compelling proof. So, this is the exact same case as the two Talmidei Chachamim. Now what? Because you found signs, that's good enough. Same way here, because he proved from the signs that the barrel was originally his, we'll give it back to him. But we don't say, well, maybe the Talmidei Chachamim are not the same as somebody else that you saw over there that had similar signs. Same thing here. We don't say that he probably emptied out the sesame seeds like the Nifkid is claiming, and there's the other ones. No, probably the same. How can you bear some company some money over there? They're giving signs in the body itself, and therefore, of course, we believe them. That's not somebody else. All they're giving is a number. How many? There's no simon on the actual sesame seeds to be able to discern whether this is the mafkids or the nifkids, and therefore, it's not a strong simon over here. Again, Tracy explains why it's a strong simon, because it's a pretty standard number. With the comma came having. He was lucky. Same number. Doesn't prove anything. Doesn't prove enough. Because the Nifka denies it, doesn't prove enough. And he's the Machzik. He's the one who's holding on to it. I'm the Makshisha, the son of Chizah Ravashi. It's a bit hard to understand the way Rashi learns in Gittin that Ravashi was born when Rava passed away. And Chizah was a friend of Rabbah and Rabbi Yosef, Rava's teacher. So Makshisha would have been similar age to Rava. That the Makshisha should have a mature discussion with Rav Ashi, unless Makshisha lived a very long life. Are we even going to entertain the thought? Rav Chizda wanted to say that what did we say that maybe? Rava said that maybe they change the sesame seeds. So Rav Chizda, Rav Chizda could have spoken to Rav, whatever he didn't spoke to Rav Ashi. He said, and it's Rav right that we're saying that maybe he swapped the sesame, he gave it back and put other ones in, but didn't we learn in the times of a Gezerah when you were not allowed to give Truma and Maisa, what the people did was, how did they give Maisa without alerting the authorities, and how did they keep the Maisa? First they separated and waited for an opportunity to give it. So where did they store it? Matzah Keli, if he found the Keli, because of all of Kuf, the letter Kuf, you should know carbon, set aside for carbon, they couldn't yet bring it to the base. They made it because of the decree. Mem, he found the Mem on the outside of the barrel, that Maisa, it means Maisa. If you found a Dalid, it means the muah. It means the muah. And tes, if he found tes, then it means tevel. And tov is truma. Shebishas sakana, because you talk about truma. Doing sakana, they found they put a top by the truma. So what does it mean? That a letter on the outside of the barrel is enough of a sign to tell you that what's inside the barrel is truma. So therefore, if a guy tells you the number, then surely he's right. The mafkid is right. What do you tell me that? No, maybe it's something else in there. You see here, we're saying that it's true in my or that. Rabbi Ravashi didn't have an answer. So Ravashi over there was all sitting there and discussing in front of Ravashi. He said, on the other hand, the loy chashin, you're going to tell me we're not concerned? I'll bring a proof from that very same Mishnah that we do entertain the idea. At least some hold you do entertain the idea that it was swapped. Because the aim is safe. Look later on in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yasi Aimed, afilu matzah chava. Even found the barrel. The kosher let truma says the word truma, not just a tough. I'm assuming it's chulin. Shani I'll say yishtakid having balei truma. Last year they left the truma there. Opina, it's no longer the same. So we see, just like you bring me a proof of Tanakama that we assume that it's the same. I have Rabbi Yasi says we assume that it's been changed. Ella, so in fact, what's going on? What's the argument? Do we think that people will swap and leave or not? What's going on? Ella, perhaps all the Tanaim, Tanakama, and basically all hold that maybe you swapped it. So what's the argument here? The argument is whether it's still the status of truma, not whether this is the same truma as there last year. If people taking comes and goes. The question is, because you left the tafa, the word truma, does that tell us that whatever you're putting in the future is also going to be truma? That's the argument. But everyone says that could be swapped, and therefore, by the case of Shum Shemi Rava is correct, maybe you took out the sesame. This argument, if you took out from the barrel, then definitely you would erase the word tough, you would erase the word truma. The other one says, you forgot. You were going to, but you totally forgot. Or he left the word truma there. It's not that it was truma. He left the erase. It's not truma at all. You know why that's the word truma there? Not because he forgot. He wanted people to stay away from it and not touch it. So therefore, he left the word truma. People stay away from it. Says the Gemara. That's how he got it. Yitzchak Reish Gulus. This is an odd thing here. This person called Yitzchak, the head of Galus, which is a very distinguished position. It used to mean that you came from David, or just Reish Galusa became a name, the head of the Galus, like the chief rabbi. Barachte Rabibi, the nephew Rabibi. Havika Ozil, he was traveling with Kutova La Spamia. He was traveling Kutova to Spamia. Spamia, according to most opinions, is Spain. And it seems that Yidden lived in Spain way back in the times of the Beis Hamikdash already. In fact, Tastes bring before that Kani and Kadmoni, Tastes bring before that Kadmoni is Aspamia, Spain. That's how far back Jewish history goes in Spain. Others say Spamia is some city somewhere not in Spain at all. But the general acceptance is that Spamia is Spain. Vishachiv, and he died on the way. That was the message they got. So the question is, can this woman now, his wife, now remarry or not? This is the letter they sent. They sent a letter from that city. The Bez in that city said there's a man called Yitzchak, the nephew of Rabibi, so it's pretty specific, was traveling from Kurtova to Aspamia, and he died. That's it. So the question is, can we write that now that his wife can remarry? Do we have to do some research? Because maybe maybe there are two people called Yitzchak Galusa. That's a bit hard to understand. How can there be two Reish Galusas? And if there was another one, wouldn't we all know? That's the reason why Reish Galusa is that he's the head of the community. So everybody knows who the Reish Galusa is. If there are two, we would all know. What do you mean? Let's do investigations. It's a bit hard to understand. Some want to say it's a last name, but that is a very odd last name. So don't exactly know. But anyway, are we worried about Yitzchak life? No, do we have to even do research, or do we say we have a name, a specific name, and this person is holding the, we know that person in the city, that's good enough? Would we actually every time have to do research, even like learning about the big first page about Metzia, about a star, if it's lost, and do we have to see that maybe two Yosef and Shimons, and do we have to do all that? Or only if Huchziko, only if we know for a fact that two Yosef and Shimons, then we have to do our research, where did the star come from? Here's the same thing. So right now the question is, do we have to research, or since we don't know one way or another, we can rely on that? So Abaye says, no, you got to do your research. And Rabbi says, we are not worried. How do I know? Those according to Rabbi, since we have no reason to think there's two, why bother doing his research? Abaye says, how do I know? There was a get, the get was found in the doi. And the woman is standing there before us, and the business, I give you that get, that's my divorce, and I lost it. Because when it's written there on the get itself, that Betzad Colonia and Masa in the city called Colonia, on the side, and not I, Androlinoi Nehedoi, Androlinoi from the city of Nehedoi, Patrit, I exempted with Tarchet and I divorced Yas Planis, this woman, into say my wife. So that was the get that they found with the name, specific name, that I'm from the Herdoi, and it says that this person, I come from the Herdoi, I'm on a drive from Herdoi, and his wife is standing in business saying that belongs to me. What do we do? Sholcha, you didn't see her, so that the father Shmuel was asked this question. He sent off this question to Shaila, to Rebbe. The Sholcha, Rebbe said back, check out the entire length and breadth of Nerdoi to see if there's another person by the same name called Adruluni or Nerdoi. So we see from here clearly that we always check out, even though we have not established there's another person, we need to do our homework first. That's a bias proof. Comes along, Rava says, Imisa, if you have to check out, why check on the day? Then why don't you check out the whole world? Maybe there's another Androloy somewhere that used to live in the Doi and he's moved to another town. But maybe in that other town, everybody calls him the guy from the Doi. So why, if you be choishes without any basis, why stop here? So Rebbe did. Rebbe wanted to humor Avu the Shmuel. Avu the Shmuel asked the question, which means Avu Shmuel did not know the answer. Rebbe did not want to embarrass him out of covet for this great man. So he said to him, yeah, good point. Go do your homework. If Rebbe would have said, don't bother doing homework, it would be very embarrassing. Avu Shmuel didn't know that. So that's how Rebbe learns. He did it out covered for Avu Shmuel. But really, if you have no reason to suspect anything, don't check it out. How do I know? I don't know what I say. The study, there were these two study, the Nafkim and Mechuzah, there were these two study that came out in the city Mechuzah, and it was written to the following. And one of them was written Chavi Bar Ganoi. This man called Chavi, the son of Ganoi, owed money. And another one said Ganoi Bar Chavi, the guy called Ganoi, the son of Chavi. And what happened was that Rabba Baravu used said that these documents are all right. Baravu is Zuzi. Now he based himself on this document, went to the borrower, and he says clearly in the document, you owe money, give the money. Now, it seems that it's a very common name. It's like Smith. It's a very common name, and he didn't do any homework to see whether this person actually is the person entitled to collect the money. He just assumed that it's right. So see clearly to me that if you have no reason to suspect anything, we just use it, we just go ahead. We don't right away say, oh, let's say there's another person out there. Okay, so what about Abaya? How's Abaya going to respond? Why do you rely on the star? I said, what are you talking about? What exactly are you talking about? Where my case is, we're talking about a get was lost, a star was lost. There's a dispute, and we have to work it out. So I say, do your homework. Here's the case: a guy comes forward with a deed in his hand and says, "You owe me money." A loan contract in his hand says, "You owe me money," and you're saying we should go check. Why should we check in this case? First of all, what are we worried about? Are we worried about that? Maybe that the rightful lender lost the contract and this other person found it with the same name. When it comes to money, people are very careful. People generally don't lose their loan contract. They'll tell everybody, and we'll hear about it. Are we saying that what? Possibly somebody with that same name gave it the star to him. Maybe they'll hold on to it until I come back from wherever I'm traveling. And therefore, the person who actually producing the star has no right to use the star. Rabbi, let me ask you a question. If I have the same name as you and somebody owes me $1,000, do you think I'll give you the star and I go travel away and I not trust you that you're not going to take the money yourself? Of course not. Keeping the shmei, but with the same name, he wouldn't give it to him in the first place. So what are we worried about? My Ahmed, what are you worried about? Dilma Mosaleh, in other words, maybe he sold this loan contract. People would on-sell a loan contract, 100, let's say 85 cents to the dollar. So at least I can get my money up front, like factoring. So you get your money up front and you go and collect it. So maybe I gave you the star, and what's wrong with that? So then you're personally entitled. But how are you koine star? There's a big machlek is how you are koine star. For in order to be koine star, is it just by giving it over called kinyan masira? Or not, you have to do it another way. So what happened is that maybe Rabbi said, let's try to think, what possible problem could arise? Maybe he sold him the star, but the guy didn't make a kinyan yet. So really, the person who bought it didn't own the star yet, and now he's using it to collect money again. Both have the same name. It can't be because Dilma Mosle gave it to him and he changed his mind. Oh, you didn't consider the moment you gave him the star. That itself is the kinyan. So therefore, Abai said there's no problem whatsoever. There's no problem whatsoever. Okay, tomorrow will be another case where Abai and Rabbi hold exactly the opposite of what we said today. But basically today, Abai said even if there's no reason to be suspicious, we need to check it out. When something was found, and Rabbi says that there's no reason to be suspicious, that's good enough. We don't have to bother checking it out any further. Okay, continue tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. Tomorrow back to normal time.